I'm a diehard Mac user, and there are some apps and hacks that I just can't live without. Let me show you. LICEcap is this little application that lets you make GIFs really fast. It seems to be completely free, and you can use it on Windows or OS X, even Linux it seems. So if you download that and install it, you get LICEcap. It's just this little window that allows you to resize any size you want. You can change the frame rate. I usually do maybe around 12. And then let's say I want to record a little Fusion 360. I often resize the window to kind of get what I want in there. Drag it to what I want to show, then click record. And I'll say MX rest. And I want it to show the mouse button presses, but there's a lot of other options there that are nice. Save. Gives you a pre-roll of 3 seconds. And now I can do anything inside this window. And it records it as a GIF, so I can turn off my section. When I push stop, looks like this. You can obviously change the frame rate depending on what you're looking for. That's about an 8 meg GIF, and we've got ways, actually, I've got an upcoming hack on how to make that smaller. One of my favorite applications is ImageOptim. You can resize any image. Let's open up ImageOptim. So it's just this little window. So you have this chemex rest here, almost 8 megabytes, but that seems a little high. Without losing any quality, if I'm in the preferences here, reduce the JPEG data and like strip the PNG metadata, and it'll also do quite a bit to remove data out of the GIF file. I'll open up my Finder, and I just took that GIF, I drag it in there, it'll immediately start crunching it. And in this case, it only took out 1.1% of that file. It isn't great. So if I actually duplicate this, which is Command D on the keyboard in the Finder, I usually do that so I can see the comparison. And I'll go back to Preferences, which is Command comma, pretty much on any app, and then say I want to do lossy minification, which means it's going to take the quality down some, but not much. In this case, let's say we want to do an 80% reduction in our GIF. We drag that on there. It usually takes a little time, but that took down 42% of the GIF. So now we can compare. I do a little preview of spacebar. Still looks pretty great to me. I don't see a lot of quality loss compared to that. So you could probably go down even farther. So say I took a screenshot with Shift Command 4, this whole area, that's going to drop on my desktop. A PNG is typically pretty heavy in the world of images. Crunch that down again. So if I go back to Preferences, turn off lossy magnification. So this is just stripping down without losing quality at this point. Shrink that down quite a bit. That screenshot does take a little longer to do PNGs for some reason. I'm usually all right with that because it usually does quite a bit of work. So you can see we took that down by 36%. So it's pretty large reduction there. So this is pretty good. So far I've taken 3.6 megabytes out of my files. This is just really helpful for whenever you're trying to send a file and it doesn't fit. And you can obviously go into the preferences and play around with how low you want the quality to go, or you can turn up the optimization level, which will really do quite a bit for the processing time. Should take it down. I don't see a lot of gain from that, so I usually don't. So you've probably seen me do quite a bit of this optioned spacebar situation, and then this black box will show up. And that black box is actually Alfred, which is just another version of Spotlight Search, which is Command spacebar, but I'm pushing Option spacebar here. It's a little more powerful, and you can customize it to do kind of other things that shortcuts can't. So Alfred's like this more powerful version of Spotlight, so you can do things like math, of course. So we get 15 plus 15. You can do that in either Spotlight Search. You can do 15 times 0.3. You get 4.5, and that does the math for you. One little trick at the end of doing a Spotlight, if you're doing math there, which I'm constantly doing math, so if I need to figure out percentage of a tool step over, I'll do 0.5 times 0.25. I get an 8. So then at this point, I can push Command C, and I get that on my clipboard. So then I can go over here and then paste in with Command V like you normally would, and you get that pasted result right there. So if we go back to Alfred, Some of the other things I do with it constantly are just little things. So I want to open a certain folder. So if I want to go to my movies folder, I type movies and it'll find the folder. I can then push enter and it opens up that folder right there. What else? You can do a Google search. You could search for What We Do in the Shadows, and you see a couple of results pop up here, or potential results. You get Google search, you get an Amazon search, you get a Wikipedia search. I want to do Google, so I drop that in and it'll immediately open in your favorite web browser. Something else I do all the time is I want to find out the value of money in the past because I can't do the math. A good website for that is Wolfram Alpha, if you haven't used it. So it'll query Wolfram Alpha by typing in Wolfram. And then let's say I want to look up $1,500 in 1932. I hit enter. It does all that entering into the text field on Wolfram Alpha for me, and I just get the result. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do with Alfred. If you open up the preferences, there's all these workflows and appearances, and you can do things remotely with it apparently too. I don't tend to do that myself. I think I'm pretty basic about it. I use it to open folders a lot. So if I know a project number for our job, for one of our jobs for work, I'll type that number in, it pops up the folder, and I don't have to go search through all my folder levels to get there. I find that to be a huge time savings, and I use it all the time. Contacts, there's quite a bit you can do with it. You can do stuff with the clipboard. I probably should look into this more because there's more I can get out of this. Next up is one of the newer apps I've been using, but it's really amazing and I love it. And actually iOS has come out with something similar, but it's not as good. So it's called TextSniper. And TextSniper is a way to basically do a screenshot over some text and then copy it straight to your clipboard. So there's a couple ways you can do it. It is $7.99 and it is completely worth it. It saves so much time. You'd never imagine how many times you want to copy text, but you can't because it's somewhere that's not extractable. So I've got TextSniper open right now. One of the things it can do is, its basic function is capture text. So I use Command-Shift-2 to do that. So obviously this is selectable text, but up in this text box here, their example, that is not selectable. That's just an image. If I Command-Shift-2, I get a little window here that shows me basically the screenshot function, and I just drag it over here, and it's copied to my clipboard. I can then paste that into any text field. I can open up drafts and paste that into drafts. It'll keep the line breaks. You can also have it turn off and not keep line break. Literally anything. So this icon here down at the bottom of the screen says January 29. If I Command-Shift-2 and select that, it picked up January 29 and drops it into my clipboard, and it is so nice. All right, how about another example? So I open up like receipts. Pretty annoying to have to like copy this, paste it like that. I just want to pick up 4 of these at a time. Snap those, paste. Perfectly transcribed. It does have errors, but it's usually because I've selected something weirdly. Really go crazy here, and it doesn't seem to care how many things you've selected. It's very fast. So I'll show you what it looks like without the line breaks. So you'd get something more like that, which is also useful, and I do use that. So anyway, TextSniper, highly recommend it. It's $8. Maybe that seems expensive in the app world, but if you value your time at all, you will find uses for this all of the time. All of the time. It's so good. One of my absolute favorite apps that I've been using for, 5-7 years now is called TextExpander. And it is just this little thing that's going on in the background that's basically expanding a macro. It's just a faster way to type stuff. If I hold Control-Shift-Command-D, I'll pop up TextExpander. I do use kind of an old version of it where you don't have to pay for a subscription, but the subscription version is pretty cool too. You can use it as a team. Stick with me, it's really cool. At least I think it's really cool. So TextExpander is just a way to expand something really quickly. So I have all these folders that really help me organize. I'll make a new folder here, or a group as they call them. We'll call this video. So inside that, then I can create a new snippet. The box at the top here is the content. What are we pasting? What are we dropping in when we do the shortcut? So you can do that as plain text, formatted text, pictures. You can do scripting. I've got a little of all. Let's say I wanted to make something that in my email, which is super common in this use case. So let's just say my email is bob@espn.com. probably is bob@espn.com. I wouldn't email him. Seems rude. So I label that Bob's email. To shortcut that, I usually use for emails, I use an @ sign and then something else. So I do like @b. If I open up drafts, just any text field. Actually, you can do it anywhere. You don't have to have a text field open. I type @b and it'll pop up. I've got a lot of these. Lorem 1, and it drops in lorem ipsum text. So I've got a couple of these. I think that's 2 paragraphs of lorem. Let's say I had an Amazon URL, for example, one of the scripting versions I've made here, CAZ, which is a little bit of a script. I found these, made these over time. I'm no programming expert. A lot of it uses regex commands. When I go and find something I want on the internet, especially on Amazon, it's going to come up with this ridiculously long URL. If I paste it in here, I think that looks terrible and I don't want to share that. So if I type the 'CAZ, it drops everything out that's not necessary. Now my link looks really clean and nice. Somebody asked what my YouTube channel is. I can type YT, dropped right in there. I have like all of my products made into these pop-ups. So if I do 'NNN, I get a little pop-up, which is one of the options you can create. It pre-fills the URL of my website, and then I can then quickly select by even just hitting the first letter, day plan. If I push OK, it drops in the whole URL. In the address bar here, same thing. Now I'm on my URL, or I can paste it into an iMessage message. I have no idea how to properly write c'est la vie. If I start typing CIEST, I kind of always put an I in there for some reason. It'll automatically correct the right word. Things like this. So I can add in the shrug. It's kind of like a way that I've turned myself into a court stenographer with shorthand for anything that I want to drop in. Got a lot more emojis here that I use all the time. This all the time. I like the... I can do camel, camel, camel. Got one here that take anything I write. I'm the best at this. I copy that to my clipboard, and then I type 'CLAP. I'll put in clap emojis between every space for whatever's in the clipboard. There's a lot of stuff that processes through the clipboard. There's just so many things that you can do with it. You can strip out stuff out of a URL. You can have it do scripts that rearrange your screen. This is a good one. So 'RP will create a random US phone number. So you could use that for certain sign-up forms. Get next Thursday's date by typing in n.mon is next Monday. Saturday is the 5th. Time, F date will bring in kind of 2-digit or year, month, day. This project or D date will bring out a different format of the date. I could have it process a certain amount of weekdays in the future. I want to add 5 weekdays. That is February 3rd. It takes a bit of time to figure out some of like how that works. There's a JavaScript, and I typically end up going through and Googling a lot of these ways how to do some of this. I've learned a little bit of the syntax of like JavaScript. By no means a JavaScripter. It's just, as you can see, I've used this for a long time. I really love it, so you may too. Another of my favorites is ShiftIt. And ShiftIt is a version of something that there's a lot of apps out there for, but it basically just lets me move my windows around the screen quickly. You can make them incrementally larger, smaller. This is a free app that I open up a couple windows here and I want to switch their sides or make one smaller. Put this one down in the corner so that I have the perfect amount of space between them. And it's very easy to modify. If you don't like the hotkeys, I use Command, Option, Control, hold those down, and then use the arrow keys. And that lets me move it left or right, up or down. 1, 2, 3, 4 is like quartiles. Super simple application, and you can move your windows around real quick. Greenshot is just a really quick way to screenshot, and it's free also. I have it set to Command Shift 3, and then you get the little screenshot crosshairs. And whatever I select here, it's set to pop up in kind of an edit window, and you can do quick things like arrow something, write some text. You can do numbers, which are really useful, especially when I'm working with clients. You can say, you know, do you want option 1 or do you want option 2? You could make option 3 blue or cyan. You can blur something out, which is pretty great. A little mosaic, actually. This is the blur version. You can do circles, crop the image, and then you can copy it to your clipboard. So you've got it quickly somewhere to do something else with. You can also just save it. It's super fast, pretty into anything you can use the keyboard with without having to go open another application. You know, TextExpander, Greenshot, TextSniper, all of these things are really useful. You know, I've made a screenshot here. Greenshot, it's static, and I can then take TextSniper, snip this little bit of text. I just really enjoy that efficiency. I love not having to think about something like that anymore, or having to take extra steps, clicks, any of those things. That's pretty much all Greenshot does. I don't know what this does, actually. What does this do? Oh, you remove stuff. I learned something new here. That's pretty great. Most often, I'm making an arrow and pointing something out. I jump into a couple other screenshot-related hacks. Go into settings here. You can get all of your keyboard shortcuts. If you go into shortcuts, you can get screenshots, and then you can choose a whole bunch of different ways you can allow screenshots to happen through keyboard commands. I often use save a file to the desktop or save it to your clipboard. So even faster yet than getting into Greenshot, if I want to just Control-Shift-Command-4, that will automatically put it into my clipboard. I'll do it again. So that's automatically in my clipboard. If you have a place to paste it, I make a new Pages document, paste in that screenshot right there. It never had to turn into a file. I do this all the time with Slack. The other version of that is Command-Shift-4. Then you get actual file on my desktop at that point. Another favorite is Numi. I don't know how I found this app, but I love it. It's just a little calculator or kind of formula processing app. It's very simple, and it's also pretty. It's like 15 plus 15 times 0.3. You could then, this line is 300 plus 300. Then the kicker is you can do something like sum, and you get 619.5 right there. Steve is... Then I can take, obviously, and get a sum out of that. So maybe that's the bill total or what people owe for something. I can then turn this into a little bit of a formula. So I want to say Steve times 0.5, Liam times 2, minus Andy times 0.33. So at the end of that, I get the sum total these people need to pay for something. And I can use their, their names in this case to call them later on in the field. I've got a bunch of these that I use for my business. I calculate, for example, the UPS max shipping is 165, I believe, cubic inches. And so to quickly calculate whether or not an overcharge, in this case, I had 1,200 millimeters converted to inches, 800 millimeters converted to inches, and natural language processing this. So that's, the L equals 1,200 converted here. So T is actually just 1.5 inches. Then I've created a little formula at the bottom so that I can quickly go back to this, change these dimensions, and see that at the end of the line here, I'm getting 116.24, which means I'm undersized and not going to have an oversized package. I'm just doing simple algebra right here, but there's a lot more you can do with it, including like, I believe it calculates to Canadian dollars. Yeah. So you can have it quickly query what $15 is in American to Canadian dollars and be able to throw that into some kind of like, fiat equals that fiat time minus parts negative $62. Yeah. Weird calculation, doesn't make any sense, but it's pretty useful. Obviously, then you can then do something like an export. You can copy it to a clipboard and paste that in where somebody else can see it. Interesting hack. So this takes an iPhone and a Mac. Let's say I have my notepad here and I want to scan what's on it onto my computer. It could be a document. It could be this notepad here. If I right click, say anywhere in Finder, usually on the desktop, I think I'm screen recording, it won't let me. If you right click anywhere, you'll see import from iPhones, and you can take a photo, you can scan documents, you can add a sketch. So I'm going to take a photo. So it's going to say, my phone's going to pop up and immediately start to have this option to take a photo. If I take a photo of my sketchbook here, my notepad, my day plan, push use photo. It's basically instantly on my desktop, and you can see exactly what that looks like. The scan version is pretty cool too, so you can import from iPhone, scan a document, and it does a little bit more for you and automatically kind of like maps it out for you. And you get, that's not going to show. Oop, maybe it will. You get kind of pre-cornered, and it'll automatically correct the thing. So once I push done and save, that's on my desktop. So it's a little bit larger file, puts it on a PDF, puts a border around it, but makes it really easily to, make a receipt into your computer. And you didn't have to like airdrop it to yourself. It's pretty much just doing those functions for you in the background, I believe. So often you get to a point when your computer is just too full and the storage is all filled up, and you need to know a way to find that. So there's all these apps you can go and find, usually have some type of spyware in them, it feels like, or some kind of laggy ad thing. But I recently discovered this interesting thing you can do, especially on Monterey. I'm not sure if it's in other versions, but if you go up to the Apple About This Mac, go over to storage, click manage. Might take a little bit for this to calculate. You don't have to let that all calculate, but you click review files. It's going to give you a really detailed sorting of all the files on your computer. This computer is a little bit less clogged up with junk. Kind of stumbled into this on accident. I can quickly see that, one of these files, if I pull it open from our workbench editing, is a 6.3 gig file. So if I was in dire need, obviously I'd want to move this off, store it somewhere, or I can just delete it. Over on your left, you're going to see some more ways to kind of filter out that data. It seems to my documents and my applications are my worst offenders here. Social file that has quite a bit of, it's a Final Cut bundle. It's pretty much all that's really taking up space on this computer, but I thought this was pretty cool. Just go through and delete stuff that you don't need. And it's a really fast way. It's built into your Mac. You don't have to go download some other app. All right, there they are. Was there anything in there that you liked or didn't know about? You should definitely leave a comment. Let me know if there's something I missed that maybe is awesome that I don't know about, because I love learning about new apps. If you're new to the channel, go check out the playlist. We have some stuff on the Mac otherwise, M1 videos. We also do a lot of Fusion 360 videos, including if you want to start learning Fusion 360, we have an awesome playlist for that. Also things for CNCs if you're into that kind of thing. So subscribe if you are, give us a thumbs up. Those are always useful. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.
If you want to support the channel but don't want a Patreon-like subscription, Buy Me a Coffee is the perfect option. The idea of Buy Me a Coffee is to offer someone a cash equivalent of buying them a drink as a thank you. It's a one-time thing to show your support for the channel and keeps the content and coffee flowing. Look for the link below for Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to get our CAD and CAM models that we show in the videos, subscribe to our Patreon at cnc.money. Thanks.
If you haven't subscribed, it's imperative you do. I know if you watched this far, you obviously enjoyed it a little.